Hey guys, while working in your workflow, do you have a need to switch revision types from like a major dot minor in the design phase, and then whenever you release, go to just a major numeric only? This Q-tip is for you. So let's jump right into how we handle changing revision types in the middle of a workflow. We have a simple part here that has a data card with it that shows that the revision that the file is at is 0.0. This file is just a simple file that's in this same workflow where our revision is major.minor. We're going to create a drawing for it so that we can track this revision as the file moves from initiated to whip, review, and then finally to release. We're going to close this, and then from here, we're going to do the work over in PDM. The revision just picks up the custom property of the SOLIDWORKS file itself. Let's go ahead and transition these files. The revision is now 0.0, major.minor, and as we transition through the workflow, we should see it move from 0.0 here, 0.0. If we send it back, it should go through 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and then when it releases, it should release at 1. And now the revision has been increased to 0.1, major.minor. So if any minor changes need to happen through a review cycle in the design phase of the workflow, it should increment on the minor side only, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. As we release it, it should release at 1. Let's go ahead and release this drawing. Now that the drawing and the part have been released, both the revisions are set to 1, which is just the major only. Let's take a look inside SOLIDWORKS PDM in the workflow states to see how this is done. Each of the states have a revision number set on them. I wanted to quickly review which revision numbers I'm using. I am using major.minor revision numbers for initiated, whip, and review. If you look at each of these states, the revision numbers are set on the revision numbers tab, major.minor, major.minor, major.minor. But on the release state, I actually changed this over to major numeric revision only. That's the major numeric over here in the revision numbers. In the revision number component, major.minor, the major is separated from the minor by just a dot. So if I look at major.minor, I have the major numeric dot and then a minor numeric. When a file is in the initiated state, I can send it to whip through this transition, and then in the revision numbers, I reset both to 1, which is the first counter in the list. That's going to reset. The preview shows us it's 0. So whenever the file moves from initiated to whip, the revision should be 0.0. I don't set the permissions on the state so that the users can set revisions on the states themselves. I do it automatically through the workflow. Once you set the revision in the initial workflow state and you reset it to 1, the preview shows that this would be 0.0. Then you need to set the revision variable on the data card to the next revision. It doesn't matter what that next revision is going to be, but you're always working to the next revision, and that's really the philosophy behind this. Then as you transition the file from whip into review, we're not doing anything here with the revision number, so I don't need to take an action here. But I would say this, anytime you leave an editable state, there is a potential for your designers to take the files outside of SOLIDWORKS PDM into the File Explorer and then bring them back in. And PDM is set to pick up the custom properties on the data card of whatever custom properties are in the SOLIDWORKS file. So if there's an opportunity for a user to change that revision value or change a description or whatever, you need to make sure that those critical data card fields are reset after an editable state. So I would recommend that when you send a review, that you go ahead and set an action here. Set variable, revision, and we're going to set that to the next revision. Finally, whenever we release the file, we're transitioning through the release transition. I'm going to increment the major by 1 so that we're going from 0 up top, 0.1, 0.2, to the next whole number on the major, which will take us to 1. In design, we're working at 0.1, 0.2, but then when we release, we move to the next revision, which is 1. You'll notice that each one of these states have the major dot minor, but then when we move to the released, it's only major. Next, whenever I transition the file from released back to WIP through a REV, ECO, then during this transition, I would reset the minor back to 1. I'm not going to go ahead and increment the major because it's working. 1 would be the first released revision number on the major side, but then as I'm moving through the WIP stages of the workflow, I'm going to be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And then when I release the next time, it will be 2. So then changing that revision during the release state change is whenever we do that revision bump. All right, so we have this drawing and the part sitting at revision 1. If you were to transition it back through new revision state change, again, we start the loop over 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, and then when it finally releases again, it will be 2. Go ahead and check that. This time we won't return it back to WIP. So the revision has been updated from 1.0 with the major dot minor to now stripping off the dot minor, and now it's just a whole number of 2. So this is part of the revision structure that might help you with your strategy as far as revising drawings with ECOs and your title block updates. Hopefully this Q-tip's been helpful for you. Believe in the Q.